A UN charity has come under fire after appointing trans model and activist Munroe Bergdorf to represent British women. 17 women's rights organisations have signed a letter to UN Women UK expressing their dismay and disappointment at Bergdorf's appointment as UN Women UK champion, calling her unsuitable in every regard. Munroe, who has previously been an advocate for the same charity, is no stranger to controversy, having previously been dropped by L'Oreal for speaking out against systemic racism and then rehired as a member of the brand's Diversity and Inclusion Board. Well, critics have said that Bergdorf's well-publicised activism is not pro-women. Bergdorf, though, says she's incredibly proud to step into her new role, and it's a responsibility that she doesn't take lightly. It's quite a difficult one, this, isn't it? Because, the problem is that you want the person who is the very first UK person to be very much on women's side. And the thing is that she was a man until she was 24, so hasn't had all those kind of other points of reference that really do actually shape you as an adult woman. For example, I'm talking about having your first period, for example, in a mixed classroom and sort of even conversations about that sort of thing, about all kind of pretty much everything until you're an adult woman. It's a very, I know that obviously men change as well, but somehow for women it's so much more. You've got worries about getting pregnant, you've got worries about various other things, and they're very, very kind of specific. Yeah. And it just seems that why is it that the very first person that they appoint is a trans woman? And I just think, is it for publicity? In which case, well done. It's because you've got lots of publicity.
It's actually not that difficult. I mean, you wouldn't in any world, in any criteria. And by the way, let me just qualify this a little bit beforehand. The abuse that some trans people have got has been horrific.
It's terrible. Nobody needs it.
If you look at, social media in particular, it's horrendous. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody should see that. If somebody decides they want to live their life and they psychologically, but feel every sinew of their being is screaming out that this is not my gender, I need to be, then I respect that wholeheartedly, and I would respect how somebody wants to be referred to. But what I can't respect is somebody tinkering with the irredeemable reality that a role representing women should be forever taken up by somebody who biologically is a woman, who has the backstory to go with it. I don't for 1 second suggest that Munroe, who looks every bit a woman, I get all of that. I don't suggest hasn't had sexism with her more recent gender. However, she doesn't have the backstory. She has no backstory of being a woman. She doesn't have, you mentioned things like periods, and that's just the obvious ones mentioned. The list is long, David, and I find it, if you thought the UN was a laughable outfit beforehand, and I think most of us quietly did, then this is the final confirmation that this is a Looney Tune empire of crackerjack nutjobs that haven't, frankly, got the first idea of what reality means.
I think, Penny, you hit the nail on the head. I think the idea that young girls grow and develop and struggle with all sorts of things, including bullying, coming to terms with their own bodies, the changes that happen to their bodies, breast enlargement, development, periods particularly, trying to have someone to talk to about that, understanding what it is to have relationships with boys and so on. I just don't understand this appointment at all. I think you've absolutely nailed it.
And it's such a shame. I think it actually does it sort of... I think it becomes divisive. I think people get angry when this kind of ludicrous appointment takes place. As Ian says, I think most of us have no problem with people living and dressing and loving whoever they like and just living exactly as they choose. But when the UN choose, previously a man, to represent women for this award, for this position, I think many women will feel insulted and sort of overlooked and affronted and all of that.
So part of the role will be to improve the lives of women and girls, as well as the empowerment of women equality globally within civil society, government and the corporate sector. I would argue that you don't need to be a woman to do that. Like, as a man who's a feminist, I want everyone to be equal. Women and men get paid the same, or women get paid more if you're better.
But you don't know how it feels to be a woman.
I don't know how it feels to be a woman, but do I need to know how it feels to be a woman to be able to go into the office and say, actually, guys, that sounds sexist to me, don't say that. I think Munroe, being a trans woman, it's not ideal that they've made her the first woman, because it's going to obviously annoy women that perhaps women that are being pushed out of spaces.
If it was a second or third,
there'd be no less hoo-ha about it. But I do think that she'll do the role And if that's what the role is, then I think she'll be able to
You don't see trans men in... I mean, this isn't the first time we've had a kind of similar debate about somebody in the gender discussion being given a position or a type, whatever. But you never really hear it with trans men. And I don't think people would go there.
Well, but look at men. We can't even have women playing football without complaining about it. And I'm one of those people who complains about women playing football. It's not as good as the men's football. So it's a different kettle.
And women commentating about football, as we've heard recently.
Do not get me started on that, Penny.
So, women commentating about...
Moving on. Let's move on.